Good morning, Noel.
Good morning, Swami Ji. How are you?
I am okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
And also you can see me also. Huh?
Yep. Picture's really clear, edge to edge.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning, Barbara. Let us start. Good morning, everybody. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mriturma Amnitangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. The subject of my talk today is Beyond Three Gunas. Guna is a Sanskrit term which is, as you know, that many of the Sanskrit terms are difficult to translate, but we can give an idea, very good idea, and we'll be able to understand what is meant by guna. It is a concept in Hinduism and also Indian religions, other Indian religions, and straightway it can be translated into quality, then peculiarity, attribute, and property. These are the nearest term by which guna is translated or referred to. That is very important. It is important in other way also, because if we can understand guna and if we can really utilize our knowledge about guna in our spiritual life, then it becomes very easy to practice discrimination. Discrimination means what is good and what is bad, what is desirable, what is undesirable, and what will be the step towards the desirable thing if we are in a situation when it is we are in a situation of undesirable also. So in this way, if we can understand guna, then we can specifically, pointedly understand that, well, this is good and we shall continue it. And this is bad, we should discard it. And this is sometimes good, sometimes bad, or maybe good for some time, may not be good for in the long run. If we can understand that, then also we can handle that. That is the point. This word guna, or this subject of guna, has been treated in our scriptures very extensively. Almost all the philosophies of India accepts guna. Especially in Hinduism, we see the concept originally comes from the Sankhya philosophy. And as you know, Sankhya philosophy is the oldest philosophy of India. India has got 6 systems of philosophies, and Vedanta is one of them that we follow, or we try to preach, because that is very understandable and very appropriate for the present age. Vedanta is really dependent upon Sankhya also in its concepts, because it has taken the help of Sankhya. And as I told you that all the philosophies, 6 systems of philosophies, accept Sankhya philosophy as a substratum, you can say. Lord Krishna himself has said Sankhya is the oldest of all philosophies. I shall come to that. Now, the concept is originally notable as a feature of Sankhya philosophy. That has been said. And the gunas are now a key concept in nearly all schools of Hindu philosophy. 6 systems, as I told you, Vedanta, then Sankhya, then 2 Mimamsas, Nyaya, Vaisesika. These are the 6 systems which are prevalent, and from the philosophical point of view, they are studied. There are 3 gunas according to this view that have always been and continue to be present in all things and beings in the world. This is actually very significant. Significant in a sense that means in things and beings of the world. Things, you know, material things are there. All inert matter is there, and they also are covered by these gunas, or they can be approached through gunas. And in the same way, we have sentient beings also, and they also considered to be under the influence of guna. And we human beings, especially we are interested in human beings in spiritual context. So we need to know how actually gunas affect us and how we can really utilize the knowledge of guna for our spiritual growth. Three gunas are called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And Sattva is goodness, calmness, harmonious. This we can understand. Goodness, we have an understanding of what is good, what is bad. So something is good probably weather-wise. Today is very good weather, I can say. And if when it was very raining, or you know, in the East Coast, they are having this bad weather, that means very icy and stormy, and that is, we can say, not good weather. So in that way, we have concept of goodness and badness, and also we have the idea in persons, a good person and a bad person who actually does harm, and a good person does good. So in that way, those two contradictory concepts, ideas, we can easily conceive in our mind. And the goodness aspect is called sattva. Calmness also, mind is calm, or a person is calm, or the weather is calm. So these concepts are really quite common in us. That means we deal with that type of concepts every day. So this calmness aspect related to human being or other beings, and also, as I told you, inert substances like weather and such other things also fall into the category of sattva. And harmonious also. Harmonious means a person lives harmoniously with other persons. Some persons are really quarrelsome. So in that way also we can categorize the personalities, and the person who is harmonious really fall into the category of sattva. Then there is the other middle guna, which is called rajas, which is passion, activity, movement, drive, as it is called. You know, some people have drive. You see this, if you go nowadays, open the news, you will find that there are persons who are striving to reach higher and higher things. Suppose they are going to the Mars, or they are expanding their businesses, earning money. So these require drive, and that is passion. And the persons who are really driven by those type of things will fall into the category of rajas. It is good. You cannot say it is bad, because especially in human circumstances, if somebody does not have drive, actually he will be falling back. That means he will not progress. And if a company or if an institution does not have drive towards progress, then it will actually become redundant slowly. So then we understand that passion, activity, movement, drive, these are important, and they fall into the category of rajas. And we can easily figure out what is sattva and rajas. That means a person who is calm and quiet, who is controlled, is harmonious, then his personality is sattva. And a person who is always trying to do something, full of drive, has what is called dream, trying to achieve the dream. So that type of person will be a rajasic person. Then there is tamasic, ignorance, inertia, laziness. That is also there. That means there are persons who are really very sleepy, doesn't want to do work, and does not make any effort, just go on living day to day, from one day to another. So in that way, there are many persons. Of course, for health reasons, if somebody is old, so there is no way that he can be rajasic, but he can be sattvic to some extent, but it is difficult for him to become rajasic, because he doesn't have physical energy also. That means limitations are there. So in that way, a person who is ignorant, who is full of inertia and lazy, will fall into that category of tamas. And in the inert substances, you know, all the materials, they are full of tamas. That means a stone is tamas. That means it does not have any power to move around. That what is called any other thing which are insentient will fall into this category of tamas. So these are the three important concepts which have been taken into consideration by our spiritual teachers. All these three gunas are present in everyone and everything. It is the proportion that is different. That means it is not that if I am sattvic, it doesn't mean that I have a rajasic element inside me or tamasic element inside me. If that was not there, probably I shall not be able to move around, do anything, or I shall not be able to sleep even, because I am sattvic. I can get rid of rajas, or I have got rid of tamas and rajas. So naturally, I have to spend time in meditation, and it will be eternal meditation. Then in that way, I shall pass on. So that doesn't happen. So every person has got elements of sattva and rajas and tamas, but the proportion varies. That is the most important. A tamasic person also has got rajasic and sattvic element inside, and also a rajasic person also has got sattva and tamas inside. Only important part is the proportion, in what proportion they have. The interplay of these gunas defines the character of someone or something. Something, as I told you, we are not very much concerned with the inert substances or subhuman beings. We are mostly concerned with human beings in spiritual context. So we keep ourselves limited to that. The interplay of these gunas defines the character of someone or something or nature, or determines the progress of life. That is the point. If somebody does not have drive, so he will not be able to progress from one guna to another. If the preponderance of tamas is there, then it will not be possible for the person to progress also, to do anything also. So in that way, though all the gunas are latent within ourselves, so it depends upon what is manifesting in us most, and we have to determine. If we want to progress, we have to cultivate. Cultivate means we have to inspire the other qualities which are latent within ourselves. So in that way, a person who is tamas, he can really cultivate rajasic qualities because it is there, it is sleeping inside, and that will be helpful for the progress. And a person who has mostly rajasic, that means always running here and there and earning money and earning name and fame and all those things, such a person also, if he wants to be spiritual, he can cultivate sattva qualities because it is innate, it is already there, and that needs to be cultivated only. So in this way, sattva, rajas, and tamas is very important in our spiritual life. And then in Sankhya philosophy, as I told you, that means Sankhya actually is the concept in Sankhya is that there is the Prakriti, that means inert world. Anything that is chemical or material and all those things does not have any life. Trees are, of course, not totally inert, but it has got tamas plenty, but it can grow, it can, that we can see. So naturally, it has got life inside. So, but in human beings, we see that the qualifications that I described are very important. So it has been said in Sankhya philosophy, or it is accepted in Sankhya philosophy, which is accepted by other philosophies also, that these gunas is of one of three, that means tendencies, qualities, sattva, that is in Sankhya philosophy. This category of qualities has been widely adopted by various schools, as I told you, of Hinduism, for categorizing behavior and natural phenomena. So Sankhya philosophy has another concept which is called Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is consciousness, pure consciousness. It does not have anything with gunas. It is gunaless. That means it is beyond guna. That is the subject matter that I have taken today. That means how to go beyond these gunas. But what about the three gunas? Three gunas are combined together is called Prakriti. Prakriti means all the substances that are not consciousness. That means below consciousness, you can say. They are categorized into, together, they are called Prakriti. So in another way, you can say Prakriti consists of three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And they are really, and with the mixture of these three, whole Prakriti is really made up. We know when we look to the in ancient world, we know that there are elements with which all the chemical elements with which all the materials are constituted. Our body is also constituted of these physical materials, inert materials. So because we have consciousness, actually it is we act upon those inert substances. In that way, we are surviving or we are working, things are going on, and all subhuman creatures are doing that. So in that way, because of the connection of consciousness with the Prakriti, we see all the things are really working in this universe, and especially in sentient beings. So in Indian philosophy, these qualities are not considered present in an either or fashion. That means either or. That means it is not that either means, that means it is consist of only sattva, it is considered only rajas, only tamas that I told you. It is not like that. It is in the combined. That means rather everyone and everything has all three, only in different proportions and in different context also. Context means I can have a sattvic quality, but I can really activate rajasic quality if the context really commands. Suppose I am in a place where I need to run away. So naturally, I have to, suppose I have been chased by some animal. So naturally, there will be a tendency to run away, which is definitely, if I do not have that rajasic quality latent within myself, so I shall not be able to run away. That means sattva quality will not save me. So in that way, all the qualities are latent, and in the context, actually, they are utilized. Suppose I work whole day, I need rest also. So at that time, actually, I take help of the tamasic qualities that is latent within me. And without the help of that, I shall not survive also. Without sleep, nobody can survive. So it is important that we should have, in fact, we have, so we need to take help of all the qualities. But the point is that in general, that means in a normal life, what quality is most manifest, that actually counts. The living being or substance is viewed as the net result of the joint effect of these three qualities. That means joint effect. They are there, and ultimately proportion, in what proportion they are really manifesting in normal state, that is actually categorizes a personality or an element. According to Sankhya school, no one and nothing is either pure Sati or purely Rajasic or purely Tamasic. So this is the basic concept that we have to remember. If somebody says, oh, that person is full of something, say Sri Ramakrishna or Lord Krishna, they are what is called superhuman beings, avatars, full of Sattva qualities. But that doesn't mean that they did not sleep. That doesn't mean that they did not talk or they did not what is called eat food. So they had activities, they did activities. Lord Krishna, he actually fought also. That means there are circumstances when he had to fight also. So that doesn't mean that he did not have Sattvic qualities. He was full of Sattva because he was an avatar, manifestation of Sattva. So this is very important to know. According to Sankhya school, no one and nothing is either purely Satti or purely Rajasic or purely Tamasic. One's nature and behavior constitute a complex interplay of all the three gunas in varying degrees. That is the bottom line. For spiritual life, this is very important. And for ordinary life also, it is very important to know what is in what proportion actually one is really having one of these qualities. Then actually that will determine the personality of the person, or that will determine the what is called the path, which will be comfortable for that person. Suppose an athlete is there. For athlete, actually, a Rajasic quality is very important. So if he has the drive and energy and all those things, then he can be trained to be an athlete. That will be very helpful to him. That means that profession. But if a person who is really dull, does not have that energy and all those things, it will be an uphill task for him to become a good athlete. And also a person who is intellectual, that means he has all those latent things, but he is mostly intellectual. So naturally, act of intellect is mostly the act of sattva. So naturally, for him also, it will not be possible to be successful in athletics. So in that way, once we know what is the preponderant guna in ourselves, that in that way we can become successful in our life. Let me repeat. One's nature and behavior constitute a complex interplay of all three gunas in varying degrees. In some, the conduct is Rajasic with significant influence of Sattvik guna. In some, it is Rajasic with significant influence of Tamasic guna, and so on. So this is actually the basic concept of gunas that has come down to us. So let us see why it is very important. Bhagavad Gita is not only a sacred book, but is a very practical book for everybody who wants to practice spirituality. That means spirituality has been opened there in Bhagavad Gita, though it is a sort of discourse given by Lord Krishna in the context of the war. But it has got many, many things which we can really utilize for our spiritual life. So in the same way, if we go into the Bhagavad Gita, we shall find that Lord Krishna has taken help. Help means he has taught these gunas to Arjuna, whom actually the sermon was addressed, especially in chapters 2nd, 3rd, 7th, 13th, 14th, and 17, 18. Bhagavad Gita has got so many chapters, 18 chapters. And out of the 18 chapters, you will find the mention of these gunas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 7 chapters, actually, Lord Krishna has used this concept of guna. He has taught actually gunas. That means he has taught us how to identify guna in different circumstances. And not only that, how to cultivate different gunas. Especially we are interested in cultivate of Sattva guna and identify what are the other gunas, and in that way we can get rid of the other gunas and cultivate Sattva guna. And in that way, for identification of the gunas, Lord Krishna has given quite a substantial part of his discourse. So we see that in verse 72, he refers to gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas as innate nature, psychology, or personality of an individual. The discourse of Bhagavad Gita is addressed from the spiritual point of view of human beings, especially for the to teach Arjuna, his disciple. Sattvik guna, as we know, has been is driven by what is pure truth, compassionate, without craving, doing the right because it is right, positive and good. So that is a lesson that Lord Krishna addressed in the context of Bhagavad Gita. Tamasic guna is one driven by what is impure, dark, destructive, aimed to hurt another, contemptuous, negative, and vicious. And Rajasic guna is one that is ego-driven, out of personal passion, and active, ostentatious, seeking the approval of others. Seeking the approval, that means sort of recognition. That means for name and fame, you can say. So in that way, it is driven by the desire, longing for name and fame. So in that way, we see that Lord Krishna has described. I have the some details are also is there that I shall, some of the verses I shall recount, whether you know how thorough was Lord Krishna in teaching these gunas. So in the chapter 7 and 18 of Bhagavad Gita, he describes various items and actions. There are 3 gunas, that means sattva, rajas, and tamas, so that we can identify. That means we can identify, if we say pointedly that this is the act of sattva, this is the act of tamas, this is the act of rajas, and this is the certain elements are also there. Food, suppose this food is really will create in you, or it will develop within you sattva qualities. This food, if you eat too much, it will create rajasic qualities. In the same way, there are food which will create tamasic qualities. So the point is that if we want to cultivate sattva qualities, then we can really take care, analyze what we are eating. And in that way, we can eliminate some items which are not really conducive for development of sattva qualities. And again, we can really eat something which is earmarked for the development of sattva qualities. So in that way, if they are identified in this way, then it is very easy for us to follow. It becomes, we don't have to test those things, and we can just easily start doing what we need to do for cultivation of sattva qualities. So in that way, we see Lord Krishna, just food is very important to us, and nowadays we pay much attention to food, not only from the point of view of our longevity, but from the point of view of what is called principles also. Some people are vegan, some people are vegetarian, and some people are really keto. Probably for health reasons, they are very helpful. But at the same time, those who want to be spiritual, they can also pay attention to different aspects of food and really take care of, use this knowledge for the development of spirituality. Then in chapter 17, in verse 7, he is saying the food also that is dear to all is of three kinds. So are the yognas, activities, austerities, and gifts. These are the common things. Yognas, of course, we can really may not be very relevant to us at the present situation. In the present day, we do not perform yognas. That means some sort of rituals. But definitely we practice austerities. Minimalists are there. You know, there is a group of people who actually cultivate minimalism. That means austerities. It is a sort of austerity, how to live with minimum material. That the person may be earning what is called millions of dollars, but his living condition is very simple. That we can easily do that. And also gifts. Gifts are important in our lives because without gift, actually, individual relationship is very difficult to develop. So naturally, when we select gift, how to select gift, whom to give a gift, if we really know, then actually the subject of gift can be utilized for the spiritual growth also. So as Lord Krishna has said, there are three kinds of the austerities and gifts. That means the three kinds. So are the yognas. How here now the distinction of these. So about food he is saying, three kinds of food he is saying. The foods that augment vitality, energy, vigor, health, joy, and cheerfulness, which are savory and oleaginous. That means has got little bit what is called oily substance. Substantial and agreeable are liked by sattvika. So this type of food actually is very important for the cultivation of what is called sattva qualities. What is that? Which brings vitality. Vitality, of course, milk is a very primary food for cultivation of vitality. From the childhood or from the very initial stage of our life, we are accustomed to drinking milk. So energy also, in the same way, milk gives energy. Then vigor also, that means it gives what is called strength in our body. And it also helps keeping good health. And also joy. Joy means if you drink milk, it is not that you will be what is called stupefied. So certain things are there who are so heavy that you will feel sleepy. Milk is not like that. And joy and cheerfulness. And savory also, it is tasteful. And also it has got butter inside, so it is called oleaginous. That means something like which has got some sort of fatty substance. So in that way, it is called sattvika. In fact, you will find that those who can really digest milk is very important for spiritual life. We had one Swami, and during my time also he had visited this place. He was mostly working in Africa, and he especially in what is called South Africa, in that Nyasaland. At that time, the country was not really renamed or divided. So there was a country, Nyasaland. So he used to teach Vedanta in those countries. And there are also many Indians living there. So they are also very much benefited by his teachings. So once he came here during my time, he had visited this country several times during his lifetime. He is no more. So his food, because he was very, very much into yoga. That means he knew many asanas and he used to teach and also practice himself. And he lived for a long time, very healthy. He did not have as such any disease. And he used to travel all over the world. So what was his food? His food was mainly milk and banana. So many times actually he used to eat, many times during the day, his main food was milk and banana. So in that way, actually, he cultivated these qualities. That means it is quite understandable that all the qualities of sattvic food is there in these two substances. And he adapted that, and he was a living proof that really it is true that one can live and cultivate spirituality by having this type of food. So a little bit note by one commentator is that the food that adds to cheerfulness is also a promoter of appetite also. The food that is substantial gives prolonged sustenance to the consumer. The non-substantial food gets quickly digested. It gives no vigor of the body. There might be some food which can be digested more easily than milk. Might be there are some other nowadays several varieties of milk is available from different substances. Probably they are easy to digest, but they will not give vigor. A balanced diet, that means it needs to give vigor also. It gives no vigor to the body. But the food that is hard to digest weakens the digestive organs and hinders longevity also. There are such substances which may give you strength, more strength. Nuts and such other things, they can give more strength, but they're difficult to digest also. In that way, they will not fall into the category of sattva food. Time and place have their part to play in the consumption of foods mentioned herein. Then there is a little bit detail by the commentator. Breakfast should necessarily be light. Supper should be so adjusted that while going to bed at night, the digestive organs also have the needed rest. Because sleep is a time for rest, giving rest not to yourself, but to the what is called the organs that are functioning inside also. Because when we are awake, when you are doing activity inside the body, all the organs are really active. That means they are running. But in sleep, during the sleep, then some of the organs need to remain active, otherwise you shall die. Heart needs to be active, but it needs rest also. So in that way, when the activities during the time of sleep, if it can get some rest, so we have to take such food that during the time of rest, they also can get rest. That means supper should be so adjusted that while going to bed at night, the digestive organs also have the need rest. Digest organs, that means we're always eating food, so naturally digestive system is also active, but we have to take such food that activity is quite minimal. Attention may be paid to the partaking of warm-giving food in cold countries and those that have a cooling effect in hot countries. So situation and circumstances also count in the selection of food from the point of view of these gunas. That also we have to take into consideration. I am saying this because you know that we are very much, especially when we advance in age, food becomes really a matter of consideration. If you don't pay attention to food, actually you'll fall ill very often. You'll not be able to work also. It may happen like that. So these words of Lord Krishna actually is very helpful in selection of food. Then he is saying that, yes, some people have got the habit of eating certain food, but they do not really know that they are not really very helpful for spiritual growth. So what are those foods? The foods that are bitter, sour, saline, overhot, pungent, dry, and burning are liked by the Rajasika and are productive of pain, grief, and disease. At the time of eating, they are very tasty. That means very agreeable to the taste. But in the long run, if somebody eats that type of food for a long time, becomes habituated to that type of food, actually in the long run, probably may not be within a week or two, but probably after several years of eating that type of food, pain, that means some of the organs will be affected by that type of food. And naturally, pain means grief and disease. Disease may in here. So in that it happens. So what are those food? Bitter, sour, saline, over hot. Over hot means what is called there. Hot means two types. That means one from the point of view warmth, it is hot, and another is chili hot. That means spicy. Then pungent also. Then dry and burning are like by Rajasika. Those who are Rajasika, they actually need some sort of stimulant. That means stimulation in the system. So these food actually creates stimulation. That means creates activity, urge for doing activities. So for them, this is good. So probably you'll find that those who are really do physical work, they like this type of food. But there is limitation. That means you cannot do physical work throughout your life. So there will be time when the what is called the body will start failing, strength will decrease. So naturally, we have to give thoughts to that also. So in this way, we can select and discard some food which are really we are addicted to, if you call, then actually move to Sattvika food. There is a no, there is tingling and burning in the tongue. The eyes get bloodshot and tears trickle down profusely. The nostrils water copiously. The head reels. The stomach burns. These are the characteristic of Rajasika food. They tell upon the duration of the life of the consumer. They are definitely injurious to spiritual practices. Certain food while eating, actually, these symptoms are there. Probably we are really, what is called, burning, the tongue is burning, the nose is running, eyes, tears are coming down, but still we enjoy that food. And this food, though enjoyed at the time of eating, but they're in the long run, they're injurious for health. Then there is the, what is called, tamasica food also. That which are stale, tasteless, stinking, cooked overnight, refuse, and impure is the food liked by tamasika. That means discrimination has to be used in regard to the food cooked overnight. Certain food, of course, when these discourses were given at that time, refrigerator or what is called these freezers were not there. And scientifically, it has been proved that refrigerator and freezer really can maintain all the good qualities of food, or even cooked food. So but you have to keep in mind in general that discrimination has to be used in regard to the food cooked overnight. There are certain kinds of food which cannot be used immediately after cooking. So naturally, they have to be cooled down or have to be, for example, if you want to eat yogurt. So yogurt, if you just, it cannot be, if you just give the starter in the milk, actually it will not turn into yogurt. You have to wait for it. So naturally, it will be overnight food. That means in the evening you can put the starter, and in the morning you can get the yogurt. So in that way, overnight food is okay in such circumstances. There are others which have to be consumed soon after preparation. The fitness for consumption or otherwise of a food article is self-revealed. That means we have to take into consideration when is the best time to eat one food. A fruit kept long losing its attractive color as it gets rotten. The bad food produces foul odor. Old food becomes stale. The spoiled food becomes tasteless. The food already tasted by somebody is unfit to be taken by another because of hygiene. The remnants left over in plate by one individual are unfit to be served to another. That is also what is called for health reasons. People with tamasika disposition are heedless to all these restrictions. That is the point. That means those who have tamasika tendencies, they actually do not pay attention to these things. That means they probably eat a little bit smelly food, doesn't matter. I can take it in that way I eat. But in the long run, actually, these things tell upon the health. They held themselves to any impure and rotten food without the least hesitation. Their attainment are indicated by the sort of food they take and the manner in which they partake of it. So tamasic people actually these qualities are there, or these habits are there, which actually tell upon their personality also. You'll find that persons who take this type of food, rotten food, old food, and all those things, or this what is called food which has been kept for a long time, or which has been left over by some other, they are generally really fall into the category of tamasa. They need to change their habit if they want to become spiritual. These are simple things. That means by mechanical practice, what to say about meditation? It requires a lot of mental energy, attention, and control of the mind. But if simple things which are really physically can be done, taking food actually physically done. So if you select food in such a way that it can, what is called, produce spirituality or help in the cultivation of spirituality, why not take that? It is very easy. It is not as difficult as controlling the mind. So this is the one aspect I told you. Now let us move to some other things, which I actually brought. These gunas actually brought for a special reason today. And Lord Krishna has said, just overcome these three gunas. That means by control of the mind. When by controlling of these simple things, which are categorized in three gunas, we just cultivate most of the sattvika things or sattvika qualities, then ultimately the mind will become very controllable. That means it will be easy to control the mind. And after controlling the mind, the purpose of control of the mind is to go beyond these three gunas. That means we have to go beyond the mind also, which is what is called self-realization. That means then also we have to reach the goal. So these are the steps which are very simple to follow and simple to identify. And those who complain, oh, I cannot what is called control my mind. This is one aspect which is very important to pay attention to. And by adjusting these, what is called these aspects, to some extent, we can be successful in our meditation also. Now, I brought this subject because one of our Swamis who was in this country, his name was Trigunatitananda. That means he was given that name. As you know, Swami Vivekananda, Viveka is one quality, spiritual quality, this power of discrimination, discernment, what is good and what is bad. It is Vedantic term, that philosophical term in Hinduism. So in the same way, guna also is one of the terms which has been used in creating the name of this Swami Trigunatitananda. That means a person who takes delight in overcoming these three gunas. So naturally, we need to know what is the guna and what are these, how actually one can, atita means overcoming. Ultimate goal of knowing these things is to apply this knowledge for overcoming these three gunas. Because as I told you, Prakriti as such is, as has been said in Sankhya philosophy, and that is made of three gunas. And Purusha, which is consciousness, pure consciousness, and unadulterated consciousness. Because of the existence of Purusha or consciousness, Prakriti actually functions. But what we have to do, we have to get out of this functioning of the Prakriti individually. And then actually we shall be able to establish ourselves in pure consciousness, which is highest spiritual knowledge or high spiritual realization. We have to overcome three gunas. So that is the goal. And Sankhya philosophy has a very special aspect. That means individuals actually get liberation. We get liberation individually. It is not that the liberation will come in a group, or when all the people will, or all the beings will get be ready for liberation or achieve liberation, then liberation will be, we shall get liberation. It is not like that. Individually, that means if I can at this point get rid of the three gunas, I shall become self-realized person. That means I shall be established in what is called true self. That means Sri Ramakrishna used to go to that state many times in a day. He three gunas, that means his control of the mind was so pure, so perfect, then he became habituated to that so much that during every day during his waking hour he used to overcome these three gunas and he used to go into nirvikalpa samadhi. That shows that the possibility for us seekers. That means yes, it is possible to go beyond these three gunas. Sri Ramakrishna also has dealt in three gunas. You will find in when you read Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you'll find he has also pointed out to these three gunas. There is a conversation you will find around that Sri Ramakrishna had with the Brahma devotees in a congregation. That means Brahma used to invite Sri Ramakrishna when they used to have their services. So in one of the services, he actually taught one intellectual person. He was a sub-judge. That means he was in the judicial service, and he raised some questions. And during the conversation, he told that you say that the questions were pertinent to these gunas. That means he said that, well, is God compassionate, or compassionate is reserved for a particular type of persons. In that way, qualifications of different persons was the point of discussion. So Sri Ramakrishna said that, well, all men are not really equal. Politically, we are equal because that is important for the living together. But we are definitely not equal in our personalities. Definitely not. Some people, it is very easy. That means even the children and the family are different in categories. That means different nature. That is obvious. You cannot really deny that. So naturally, Sri Ramakrishna is saying that, yes, you are equal. All human beings are equal in certain aspect from the point of view of what is called taking benefit or whatever it may be, which is a political question. But definitely, nature-wise, we are absolutely different. And if we know the differences and what needs to be cultivated, then actually it is really necessary that we recognize that, and in that way, actually we develop spirituality. Now, Swami Trigunatitananda is. I need to talk a little bit about him because his birthday was on last Friday. As you know, that we celebrate birthdays of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Brahmananda, and Swami Shivananda amongst the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. But we do not celebrate the birthdays of other Swamis because it is too much, and it is that is why we do not celebrate that. But it doesn't mean that we do not study their lives and teachings. Trigunatita is very important because he lived in this country. And he is very instrumental in the what is called in starting the activities in the Northern California also. As we know, Swami Vivekananda, when he left Northern California, so he established the Vedanta Society, and Swami Turiyananda took care of them. And we also read his life because he's very important for us from the point of view of propagation of Vedanta in this area. And Swami Trigunatitananda actually took over from him. Swami Turiyananda left, and Swami Turiyananda came to this country in the 2nd January of 1903. And in 1902, when Turiyananda returned from America prematurely due to ill health, Trigunatitananda was sent to replace him. And on 2nd January 1903, he reached San Francisco and was taken to the house of such and such devotee who was president of San Francisco Vedanta Society. So in that way, he came to this country, and then he lived there up to 1914. Yes, not up to 1915 actually. So his life is very interesting. He was a very brilliant boy, and he came from a very well-to-do family also. And he uh, he was a student in the school of M, that means Mahendranath Gupta, the writer of this Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. He was an educationist and he has a few schools, and he was a student of one of the schools. It so happened, and M. Mahendranath Gupta actually knew. Some teachers do not know their students very well, but M knew this student very well, and because of his brightness, and he was expected to be will come out successful. That was the expectation of his teachers in the final examination of the school, matriculation examination as it is called, or in those days it was probably another name, whatever it may be. That was a school living examination. But unfortunately, it so happened that during the examination, one day he had a watch made of gold, and he lost that watch because of his inadvertentness. Sometimes it happens that you take the watch and put it on the desk and then you work, and then you forget to pick up. Something happened in that way, and he lost that watch during the examination. And that upset his mind. And he was so upset that after losing this watch, actually other papers, that means there are several papers that had to be answered. So he actually was affected. That affected his other examinations also. That means in that way he could not do well overall. Score was came out very poor. And not only that, that loss affected his mind, that he was very restless. That means he was really very disturbed. And just to get rid of, because naturally the teachers consoled him that, oh, what has happened, don't worry, study well, and all those things there, those advices they gave, but that did not work. So M was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, so he thought that let me take this boy to Sri Ramakrishna. Probably by his company or by his advice, he will be able to overcome these difficulties. So he took the boy to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna, as you know, he had a very keen eyes. That means he understood that this boy has got spiritual potentiality. So he consoled the boy and asked him to come again and gave him some spiritual instruction. And that actually endeared this Swami Trigunananda. At that time, his name was Sarada Prasanna. His pre-monastic name was Sarada Prasanna Mitro, Sarada Prasanna. So that actually permanently affected him. That means he was so much grateful, not only grateful, he was so much benefited by company of Sri Ramakrishna, and he was seeking also spirituality. It is said that during his boyhood, when he was very young, his father was a religious person. So in the boyhood, actually, he had committed to memory many verses, more than 100 verses he had committed into memory. Verses means verses like Bhagavad Gita or different stotras, that means different chantings. So in that way, he committed to memory from a very young age. So he has spiritual inclination from a very young age that we see. So ultimately, we see that there are many interesting incidents in his life. And the point is that if we go through his life, other than the spirituality, many other interesting things that had happened in his life, which are really attractive to us. So he came to this country in 1903, and then and during his time, it was the services used to be held in devotees' houses, and ultimately they had to rent places. And within a short time, he actually bought a piece of land and then constructed what is known as Old Temple now. That is the first Hindu temple in the Western Hemisphere, it is said. So the Swami published then what happened? Because of the work on the Trigunananda felt that a new building for Vedanta Society of San Francisco was needed. funds were raised, and in January of 1906, the building in Webster Street, which came to be known as the first Hindu temple in the Western world, was established and opened to the public. The Swami published a pamphlet explaining each tower and detail of the structure. The structure is very peculiar of the temple, and very recently the temple has been renovated with quite expensive renovation has been done to the temple. So the temple, in the temple, he has explained this temple may be considered as a combination of a Hindu temple, a Christian church, a Mohammedan temple, a Hindu mott or monastery, and an American residence. So we can imagine that from in the year of 1906, that interfaith or respect for all religion or all inclusiveness, as you can see, was there in the Vedanta, in the propagation of Vedanta, which was imminent in the architecture of the temple. Then actually he said, and there actually he started his work, and there were about 10 monks living there. And not only that, in another house there are several nuns also, and he vigorously trained them, and in that way he was instrumental in preaching in this country. Unfortunately, it so happened that in the year of 1914, when he was conducting the Christmas service, that means 3 days after the Christmas service, that means he has conducted the Christmas service, and naturally regular services were being conducted. On the third day after the Christmas service, he was really wounded by a live bomb. And it was a very sad incident. That means an innocent person was in the audience, and he was known to Swami. That means Swami knew that he has lost balance of his mind, and he had advised him to go to a country place. That means in a place where the life will be more soothing, to spend some time, take a change. But that person actually, because he was innocent, so he threw a bomb when he was giving lecture, and he himself actually died immediately because of the burst of the bomb. And Swami was also injured. So he was immediately taken to the hospital. He remained in the hospital for some time, but he was fairly conscious, and he was always talking about that a person who actually threw. He did not have any animosity towards him. And not only that, one of the nurses had commented, "I have never seen such a calm, uncomplaining, and enduring patient in my life." That means epitome of sattvic quality. That shows that he was really beyond the three gunas, even at this point of his life. And he died on January 10th. The interesting part is that on that particular year, in the 1910, Swami Vivekananda's birthday fell on the 10th January, according to Indian calendar. As you know, the day of Swami Vivekananda's birthday, particular date, actually varies from year to year. So this day was, in this year, it was on 10th January. And the Swami had predicted, that means he said that I shall leave my body on 10th January. And he left his body on 10th January also, as he has said. So he predicted his day one day before, and that was on January 10th. That was the birthday of Swami Vivekananda. And then his relics actually were cremated. His relics were installed in one of the hills in the Shanti Ashram. He used to go Shanti Ashram, he used to have a retreat every year for a month long. He used to conduct retreat there. Devotees used to get there. He had improved that place also, constructing cottages for devotees and activities. So in this way, we see that he was a shining example of this, how to transcend, how to go beyond these three gunas, and that is the goal of spiritual life. So he really, his name, the name that he had, actually, he really lived to his name. That means his name, Trigunatit, he was really achieved that. He was very practical, and he actually trained, as I told you, devotees very sincerely, and ultimately that the institution that we see, that means after his passing away, another Swami was a Swami Prapannananda, he took over, and in that way his legacy is still continuing, and he has prospered now very much, as we see. That means Vedanta has been propagated by the Swamis who came after him, and in that way it has proliferated, it has expanded because of his effort. So the context was that his birthday was on last Friday, and his name was Trigunatita. So naturally, it was quite obvious, or it was quite appropriate that we understand him and his work and what is actually meant by his name, so that we can also imbibe the qualities that he really practiced and showed us as an example. Next Sunday, that is on February 13th, the subject of talk is From Ignorance to Knowledge. The talk will be given by me, and we shall have our weekly activities. On Wednesday, I give the Raja Yoga class at 7:30 p.m. It will be on Zoom. On Friday, Ishtabdhanananda will give you a class on Narada Bhakti Sutra. It will be on 6 p.m. on Zoom. Then on Saturday, 7:30, I give a discourse on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and it will be on Zoom. The talk of February 13th, Sunday talk, will be on Zoom as well as on YouTube. Om Madhuvatarithayate Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha Madhi Irno Santoshadhihi Madhunakta Mutoshasi Madhumat Parthivogang Rajaha Madhudaurastuna Pita Madhumanna Vanaspatihi Madhumagang Astu Surjaha Madhirgabo Bhavantunaha. Om Madhu Madhu Madhu. Sweet by the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the herbs and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessings. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us be the all-living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace. Thank you very much for joining us. Any question, please?
Swamiji, thank you for sharing that story with the Swami from San Francisco. That was very interesting.
Yes, we have a bigger biography, a complete book written on his life. If you are interested, you can go through that. Very interesting life. It is what is called, no other Swami's life is like him. That means his life is so interesting.
Swamiji, Namaskar. It's Manish from New York City.
Thank you very much. From all the way from New York, you joined. I congratulate you.
Thank you. We have spoken on the phone before. I don't know if you remember from Roshmi's connection. We spoke maybe about a year ago.
Yes, I remember
yes.
that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, actually, I met her yesterday in a Saraswati Puja.
Oh my goodness. I will talk to her later. In
Please.
connection with your discourse today, I had one question with the Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic food. It's interesting, you know, there are no connection made to, you know, like vegetarian versus non-vegetarian type of classification. You know,
No, actually, in Lord Krishna's advice, there is no classification in that way. Lord Krishna himself was a non-veg because he was a Kshatriya. They used to hunt and they used to eat. So I don't see any mention of vegetarian and non-vegetarian food in the categorization of three gunas respect to the food items.
right. And in fact, even in the Gita, you referred to chapter 7. Those verses don't talk about vegetarian versus non-vegetarian.
Right, right.
But question is, you know, if we think of, you know, there is divinity in all living creatures, in fact, all around, you know, if given a choice between being able to eat vegetarian versus non-vegetarian, is there a case to be made that for a spiritual person, it's preferable to eat vegetarian food? Or maybe this is not the right way to think about it.
That is, of course, debatable, because many spiritual persons have eaten non-vegetarian food and were very respected spiritual person also. And if you take the vegetarian food, if you eat yogurt is full of what is called living beings. So you cannot really do not see them, but you are killing them. So what is the answer to that? So it is a matter of what actually keeps the body and mind calm and quiet. That type of food is good for spirituality in general, whether it is a meat or whether it is a chicken or egg or milk or just spinach. That is your choice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Pranam.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Namaste.